this. So COVID obviously affected lots and lots of companies in different ways, but the three groups we've got talking to you all have an interesting story to tell, particularly if you have spent any time in the last 3 months not liking your hair, worrying about eye strain, or just having anxiety in general. So we've got with us today Heidi Dorosin, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Madison-Reed, Sean Pate, who's the Brand Communication Officer at Zenni Optical, and Karalyn Zamora, Director of Digital Marketing and Growth for Gravity Products. And we'll get started right away. So our first question is just kind of, what happened? How did the crisis unfold for you? And let's start with Heidi.
Well, hello. I'm happy to be here. For us at Madison-Reed, COVID represented for us nothing short of an explosion in demand. We had a 12x, yes, I said the number 12x increase in demand, and I would say an explosion of virality where everyone was talking about their hair color, how to handle emerging grays. There were jokes online about the world is going to find out in 3 weeks that we're not all blonde. So I would characterize COVID as an explosion in demand and an explosion in virality for us as a company.
Okay, great. Sean, what was it like for you at the beginning? Uh-oh, Sean, I don't think we can hear you.
There we go.
There we
I'm
go.
off mute. Sorry, I know better than that. So, no, I've been trying to figure out some analogies to describe this year for Zenni. It's been everything from a roller coaster, but really truly a whiplash effect. Our business and the secret to our business is our manufacturing model that is based out of China. So to start this year, we were truly worried about the sustainability of our business, not just Q1, but potentially for the entire year, as we had a full production shutdown in China for roughly about 2 weeks, just coming off the Chinese New Year, and that was due to the outbreak of COVID there. So with that being said, we were getting ready really for a long, cold winter and not understanding what is potentially going to be in 2020 look like. So we pulled back on marketing spend. We had to mitigate a ton of shipping delays. This is all through the February and early March timeframe. And then of course, the outbreak in the US really affected the business, and Q1 was really flat growth. And that's what we were staring at for the rest of the year. And then, again, I think by the byproduct of what our business is, how it's designed, and what we've sort of been setting ourselves up for, we have been just so fortunate to experience phenomenal growth over the last quarter, to the tune of a massive turnaround that I don't think any of us could have expected. A number of different proof points to that and reasons for it I can get into later, but it's been an incredible bounce back where now what we were looking at flat growth for the year, we're at about 25% growth year over year, and really charting to about 40%, which is just incredible considering all the conditions that are out there.
Okay. And Karalyn, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, how about you? What happened? How did this all kind of unfold in your company?
Yeah, thankfully, being a weighted blanket company that's designed to help reduce stress, we were pretty stable. But the biggest thing that we really attached to was the fact that COVID and people being furloughed and being at home really increased the demand for mental health products and resources. And so we kind of shifted our focus to be a lot more humanizing in a way of being able to provide resources for our community, and creating now is what we're calling it, a Gravity Cares program that includes not only just programming within our socials, but even a small fund that we give to people that we know are in need currently.
Okay. And what do you think, I guess let's talk about adaptivity, and we can sort of start with you this time, Sean. What do you think was the biggest lesson you guys learned? What do you think our panelists should take away from how you guys coped?
Well, I mean, this is sort of an overused cliche, but it's helpful that our business is, while long in the tooth, 17 years now online, we're still very much a startup oriented type of management. And so our ability to be nimble and to really reforecast once, around the March timeframe, starting reforecasting again now in the last few weeks, and being able to move with the tidal shifts that are happening over the course of just a very short amount of time. And so that's an advantage that you have when you have roughly 100-ish people in your corporate office or, well, corporate environment, so to speak. And something that I think we all have to be right now is pivoting and being nimble is the key to success in this time. That just where some people are making it up as they go, and that's not necessarily, the wrong way to look at it, because who had a playbook for this starting this year? Nobody.
Yeah, nobody. Karalyn, how about you guys? What would you say the biggest takeaway has been so far?
It's been about the same, honestly. I mean, with everything being so volatile in both like the advertising spaces and just like the economy and like the social component of our country right now, it's our biggest thing was being as agile as things were volatile. So we are really glad that we're working with partners who allow us to be flexible and within our monthly budgets and finding more creative ways to be able to get in front of consumers at home. One of the biggest, I think, most impactful opportunities that we had was actually within TV. We didn't see an explosion like this in TV at any other point other point of our media buys until like people were at home watching news and our CPMs dropped by like over 50%. And our conversion rates increased, and it was performance like we've never seen before. And also with like our direct mail piece, who we use MediaPost actually as a sponsor here, we found like better ways to get in front of people because people were home, they were checking their mail, and getting discounts out to them was a really great way to make sure that we had a footprint in the home.
And has that remained pretty consistent?
TV has fluctuated a bit, but overall it's been pretty consistent. As like other places start shutting down again, like California, a lot of the like more local places end up actually pulling out of TV, which gives us more opportunities to get placed there.
Okay. Heidi, how about you? What do you think the biggest takeaways have been for you guys so far?
I think for us, my overall perspective on COVID is it's pretty much a test of the investments you've made and the choices you've made before COVID. It's sort of obvious, but it's important to state that. It's the investments you've made in what your brand stands for. So one perspective could be, oh, Madison-Reed got lucky. The other perspective you can have is we had spent 5 years talking about salon quality hair color you can get in the comfort of your own home. So when COVID hit and everyone was home, all of that preparation, all of that investment in what we stood for about salon quality access came to bear, and we felt it. The other thing that was, for me was a takeaway was just not just the investments in the brand, but also the investments in your culture and your people. I think everyone here will say that during COVID, people were working 24/7, weekends blurred into weekdays. There were emergencies, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week. And, a company that does not have good culture with employees that really want the brand to succeed and are willing to put their own personal interests aside to win. We were just humbled that we had that. We had people that just were in it to serve our clients and to deliver. And so for me, it was a bit of a humbling moment of, wow, all that work, all that time, all those years, it came to fruition during this moment. And it's tough that, I say this with a lot of humility because I certainly wish we weren't, in the middle of this crisis of COVID. But that's the takeaway I have from the experience.
Okay. And I guess, I'll ask each of you this, but I'll just start with you, Heidi, since you're kind of on a roll about it. You guys did some launching into this too that was interesting. And one of the things that I'm curious about is that people talk about how long it takes to form a habit, and then again, how long a habit gets to become a ritual, and it has to be sort of enjoyable. What's it been like trying to teach your users to stay with you, to keep coloring their hair at home when eventually we're all going to have a choice about that? What's the challenge been about that to make the user experience as sticky as possible?
Yeah, that is central to every conversation we're having, is not just can you get them, but can you keep them, right? That's the ultimate, LTV to CAC equation that we all struggle with. And yes, so when you have a surge in demand, you have a surge in questions, you have a surge in customer calls. We went from 700 calls a day to our online service center to about 4,500 calls a day. And what we did to adapt, and adaptability is a big theme during this time, is we realized we have to figure out a way to get a colorist to talk not just one-on-one with the client, but also to 400 people at once. And out came an innovation that we're very proud of called hair color house parties, which are Zoom parties. So just like we are all looking at each other right now, you can imagine the same thing happening with a colorist actually demonstrating live how to color your hair at home with 400 women watching and asking questions. So that's what we did. The challenge for us for retention is, how do you educate her? How do you eliminate the fear? I like to say that my job as CMO is a job of transforming emotion, an emotion of fear to an emotion of confidence in terms of coloring at home. And for us, the Zoom parties of scaling online education has been a key enabler for that retention.
Okay. How about you, Sean? What's the hope and plan to keep people with you now that they've had so much time to think about how they look in frames A, B, and C?
Well, I say this humbly too, and I couldn't agree more with what Heidi had said just about our business. I mean, we have been evolving and almost setting ourselves up, certainly not for a pandemic, but for success by creating a story and a personality around our brand for the last few years that hadn't existed in its early days. The company's really been hugely successful, relying on just the cost and value proposition of its products. You can get prescription glasses at Zenni for as little as $7, and they average about $40, and that is massively disruptive to the incumbent eyewear market in a brick and mortar sense. But in terms of retention, we enjoy a pretty strong retention in general because of that. People really, when they come to Zenni, don't believe that you can get glasses for the cost that you do. And we own our own manufacturing and are able to pass on those savings to the consumer. So once consumers do purchase a pair and actually understand that the quality is right on par, if not better, with anything you've bought at your eye doctor or any retailer previously, they're pretty sold. Our big challenge has been and continues to be converting and migrating people that are buying in the retail space and have been just continuing with the status quo for many years. And that's been roughly 90% of the eyewear category. So as many glasses as we sell per year, which this year will be over 6 million pairs, there is still that much land to grab for us. So right now we're in a unique position of a lot of retailers not being open or struggling to stay open. And people being at home and spending more time online and being able to take advantage of the Zenni experience, which is effectively a build your own pair of eyeglasses. And so that experience takes a little bit more time than going into your retailer. But this has given us the opportunity to introduce that to people that may have not tried, but have maybe seen the brand in advertising or some of our partnerships that we established prior.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I belatedly put on my $30 Zenni. So there you go.
Got to protect your eyes.
Hey, Karalyn, one thing I thought maybe you could talk to us about, because it's a little different for your brand. Marketers worried a lot about they didn't want to come across as either tone deaf or opportunistic. And you have kind of a sensitive product. This was a time of such heightened anxiety and fear and mental health problems. How did you say, okay, what's the sensitive way to sell this product, which we believe helps, without sounding like, yay, everybody's having an anxiety attack?
Well, at the end of the day, one of our biggest initiatives is like proving that we are human too. We're not just a brand. And so we really were just trying to find ways to talk to people. One of the first things that we did when quarantine started happening is we sent out a text message campaign to our entire community that was like, how are you doing? Like, it's a very simple text like, hey, we're here. We're not doctors. We're not psychologists. We're not like professionals in that realm, but we are humans and we just wanted to check in with you. And like having those types of conversations really helped bring some sort of brand loyalty and to just keep them in mind, to let them know that we have them in our thoughts. You know, we had that direct communication with them, and that inspired us to create, you know, actual content around like Zoom, yoga and meditations and things that were free, because, you know, these conversations that we had with our community where I just lost my job, or I'm furloughed, or, you know, my blanket is it needs an upgrade, but I can't afford it. And so like adding a discounted portion to it and being like, hey, you don't have to buy a blanket, but like tune into these free classes that like we are essentially being able to program based off of people who are like you that are participating within our community. And that really helped, because like on top of that too, like, you know, the previous question around how do we find ways to increase like our lifetime value in a situation where, you know, we're trying not to be opportunistic, and it's really about building brand loyalty and these relationships so that like when we do expand our product line, or, you know, things do get better, that like they know that we are the company that actually wanted to show that we cared and prove that we cared by like being there as a support system for them.
And a quick follow-up to that, has that feedback from your customer base led to any launch ideas that you can tell us about?
As of right now, there are things that are coming down the pipeline, but mainly just the biggest inspiration that we had was just programming, and like, you know, like people even still text us even when we don't text them as like, hey, I just need somebody to talk to, which is pretty funny and like really nice to know that like people actually have us saved in their contacts. But really it's just the classes and them being like, hey, I really like that dance class. It like is the highlight of like entire quarantine. And so just programming around those events.
Okay, thank you. Heidi, Sean, I know you both described a situation where there was this explosion of demand and probably you all felt like your pants were on fire a lot of the times and you were barely keeping up. But has what's gone on in the last, you know, 3-4 months inspired you for what you will do next, like what you will launch as a result of this, now that you've caught your breath a little? If you've caught your breath a little. Sean, Heidi, go ahead.
We are still, we're not 12X, I think we're 6X now, which is still amazing. So the surge in demand still continues. I think it's what we are now doing, which is already launched, is we use this opportunity, given we had so much virality and so much brand resonance at this time, we actually accelerated the launch of 2 new items. So we launched a men's line called Madison-Reed Mister, and we also launched a product called Color Therapy, which is essentially a color depositing, color neutralizing conditioner. So we are using this time to you know, launch even more products to meet the surge in demand, which I think is, it makes sense, right? We want to continue reaching more clients and disrupting hair color. So that's what we're doing.
Great, thanks. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was a big initiative for us prior, but has proven to be even that much more tangible and relevant now, is the protecting your eyes from digital light, blue light specifically. And that's a product that we've lent into heavily with our blocks line, which I'm wearing now. And you can wear them in non-prescription or prescription, but it's a very low cost product in any style of frame that you'd like, to really lessen the effects of blue light to your eyes, which we're all consuming every single day in conversations like these, and the attention now to really digital entertainment being one of our main opportunities to you know, either relax or even do professional work. So whether it's from working professionals or gamers, it's been an extensive opportunity for us that we continue to invest in, with esports partnerships, with more marketing and specific around the use case for protecting your eyes around blue light. It's still very much an educational curve, but there's a lot of support in the industry right now, a lot of other companies that are marketing around this too. So we found that to be just, you know, I mean, very serendipitous to be in this time when everybody is literally at home, glued to their digital devices, and is experiencing some of the, you know, the downside effects of too much exposure.
Well, we have moved along more quickly than I thought. So here's a question we hadn't talked about before, but I am curious, just because Heidi brought up culture, which is such an important thing. How has retention been during such a crazy period? Do you feel like you've learned a lot about how to keep your teams happy, or has that been a struggle? Anybody can dive in first.
Customers or employees?
Employees.
Oh, employees. I mean, yeah, I think for our business, I mean, for anybody, frankly, it's like we're so blessed and fortunate to be in the model that we're at, right? I mean, so many businesses are struggling, worried about making payroll, worried about staying in business. And as a D2C business, you know, we're thriving now. And, you know, I think the tables have turned so much in the D2C space, where opening up retail locations, you know, has been all the rage for the last few years. And no, those are effectively, you know, non-existent now, or certainly very handicapped in their execution. And Zenni has stayed pretty staunch on being an online brand without any retail locations. And, you know, we're fortunate to be able to continue to thrive in that environment now and for the foreseeable future. So that's given internally just a lot of enthusiasm. Our team has been growing and evolving even during this time. I have a number of colleagues I haven't even met yet in person because of, you know, the fact that we've been, you know, on lockdown for the last 4 to 5 months. And so I think everybody is excited to continue to stay with the business, keep growing, and feels, again, fortunate that we're in a positive growth, high growth business right now.
Heidi, you specifically mentioned weekends bleeding into weekdays and late nights and stuff. Has that been a challenge for you to keep spirits high and keep people on board?
We at Madison-Reed, I would say that we have a very tight knit team, and we have, you know, you always want to worry about your employees and you always want to worry about retention, but it has not been the case that during this time we have struggled with retention. Quite the opposite. I think I agree with Sean. Anyone in D2C right now that has a thriving business feels very fortunate to be where they are, and I think I think that's true for Madison-Reed as well. I think that the thing that we have had to work on is work-life balance and avoiding burnout, and I think that has been widely discussed during this time, particularly when parents are simultaneously dealing with explosion of business need, along with the challenges of educating their child and being also a teacher at the same time, with no childcare, no classes to go to for their young children. So we have we have made it very clear to folks to block their calendars when they need to be tutoring, when they need to be dropping kids off, or more likely helping them with virtual learning. And recently we have, in the last month, we have announced that we are half-day Fridays. And that is an attempt to give people more flexibility regarding when they work, and it has been incredibly well received. And there's definitely more work to do, but that is something that I think any leader at this time needs to have a very close eye on.
Thank you so much.
Sarah, I'm just gonna jump in here. Sorry, you're doing great, everyone. But just, we want to give people an opportunity to ask questions, and we have some people ready to ask questions. So I'm sorry to meet you, Karalyn. Good to see you, even virtually.
And I'm sorry, I'm looking. I don't see any hands, but
well, I've been watching them. But anyway, well, Shannon Hampton, she has a question, and Shannon, if you want to ask your question.
Yes. So being agile and quickly adapting to changes has really proven for each of you to be very, very successful. How do you expect to maintain the growth that you're seeing for the remainder of the year and into 2021? And do you have any concerns that this is just an outlier because of COVID and, you know, human habit and day-to-days have changed? Or do you think that this is going to be a trend for you guys? And where do you go from here?
Karalyn, since I interrupted your response, why don't you start with that one?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, when it comes to growth, we've been pretty stable. But being like a digitally native brand who launched on Kickstarter and was a lot bigger than any of us had ever dreamed, like, we ended up closing a Kickstarter out at 5 million and is like one of the top 20 Kickstarters of all time. I think we're really used to being agile and like kind of going with the flow. And even during the year, as much as we project, we have like a Business Insider article pop up and it just be a really crazy like week for us. So I think for us, like volatility is something that we do see because as things are pretty stable, we do have spikes of growth typically. And being agile is just something that's like part of our core company mission or like, I guess, like approach.
Yeah, and as from the Zenni standpoint, I mean, it's a super fair question. People have asked that a lot. And I think if you haven't experienced our brand before, you might have just seen it for the first time. The far-reaching effects of COVID are going to be felt well beyond the time that we are healed as a nation with a vaccine or otherwise economically. So we feel like we're situated well. The company has been stable and growing 20% every single year for like about the last 5. So what's exciting now in terms about, acquisition and retention is that, the land grab of people that hadn't had the opportunity to try Zenni, the opportunity is there in this year and in the coming months beyond there to bring them into the Zenni family and give them that experience, which, even if retail opens up as per normal and people resume their natural habits going forward, we think with the elevation of our brand and the experience people have had even in this time, they're going to be able to come back and patronize us even more. So we're excited about that opportunity and just thankful to have the platform to do that in this period, which is going to be great.
And actually now, Heidi, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I just got a note. We're running long. You guys have been so great. So I just want to say thank you. And Sarah, whatever you want to say to sort of close it out.
Thank you guys. These are great lessons. And I got a lot out of them, and I bet our participants did too. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, guys.